Representative Gaetz paid my client, both of my clients, for sexual favors throughout the summer of 2017 all the way to the beginning of 2019.
And how did he pay them?
Those were primarily through Venmo and PayPal payments. There was one payment through Representative Gaetz' adopted son through his PayPal.
Nestor,
That's
the
right.
adopted son. Payments would come there too.
Donald Trump's cabinet picks are crashing and burning, and we saw just in the past 12 hours or so, the nomination of Matt Gaetz is a massive dumpster fire. I mean, look, we've heard now from the lawyer of many of these victims, frankly, you should call them children, who Matt Gaetz exploited. The lawyer's name is Joel Leopard. He was on CNN and spoke to other media as well about Matt Gaetz's predatory behavior. Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump nominated to be the Attorney General, knowing he was under ethics investigation by the House of Representatives for engaging in underage sex, in other words, raping underage girls, and obstruction of justice, as well as significant drug abuse. All of that was known to Donald Trump, but he still nominated Matt Gaetz. And now we're hearing from the lawyer of some of these girls, who were girls at the time, and talking about how Matt Gaetz flew them to New York so they could hang out around the Fox studios. Horrific. While Matt Gaetz was there so he could show off in front of them, 2017, 2018 time period. Also, we're learning that, and you heard it there in that first audio clip that we played that started this video, that Nestor, purportedly the adopted son of Matt Gaetz, was being utilized by Matt Gaetz to pay off the children who Gaetz was having sex with, is what's alleged. Using Nestor's Venmo, Nestor's phone was being utilized to coordinate and communicate with underage girls. Let me just play that clip one more time. Here it is. This is Joel Leopard, the lawyer. Here's the full clip. Let's play it.
Representative Gaetz paid my client, both of my clients, for sexual favors throughout the summer of 2017 all the way to the beginning of 2019.
And how did he pay them?
Those were primarily through Venmo and PayPal payments. There was one payment through Representative Gaetz' adopted son through his PayPal.
Nestor,
That's
the
right.
adopted son. Payments would come there too.
Now, senators on Capitol Hill are reacting to this as well. This is Senator Kevin Cramer from North Dakota right here, who says that the Judiciary Committee needs to see these ethics reports about Matt Gaetz, that they need to hear it. Here, play this clip.
You want to see it?
Oh, I do, but more importantly, I want the Judiciary Committee to be able to see it prior to the hearings. And then after that, depending on what happens, then of course it could be released to the other members that are going to at some point have a vote. So that's been my main point, is that you have to determine whether or not the cost of getting him across the finish line is worth it, much less the possibility that he won't get across the finish line.
But if
CNN had a guest on, and listen to this guest who talks about how he says that Madison Cawthorn, the MAGA Republican, who was talking about how the other MAGAs would have like sex orgies, who were part of the MAGA movement, and other Republicans. Listen to what this guest has to say. Play the clip.
All I'm going to say is somebody owes Madison Cawthorn an apology because y'all let him out of town. He tried to tell y'all about these sex parties, but nobody wanted to believe him. And I'm not making light of this situation, but I remember when I heard the craziness coming from Madison Cawthorn, I was like, now that don't seem quite right. But then hearing it confirmed today, I'm like, he was right all along and nobody wanted to listen.
Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? Here's the thing. I used to put regular honey into a lot of my foods, breakfast tea, protein, but then I was introduced to Manacora, and Manacora puts that regular honey to shame. I love the flavor, richness, creaminess, and all the health benefits Manacora honey brings to the table. The best way to use Manacora is straight from the spoon first thing in the morning, letting the creamy texture melt in your mouth and coat your throat. Manacora honey is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you've ever had. It's ethically produced by Manacora's master beekeepers in the the remote forests of New Zealand. Manacora honey contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. The bees collect the nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives, and the honey that is produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. A special bacterial compound called MgO also comes from the nectar of the tea tree. Manacora third-party tests every single harvest for MgO and makes these results available through their QR system. It's a game changer, and all you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of the amazing bioactives in Manuka. Additional usage throughout the day is completely fine, especially helping to cut out other sweeteners. It's a honey with superpowers. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Head to manacora.com/Meidas to get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MgO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manacora.com/MEIDAS.
And by the way, do you remember that clip of Madison Cawthorn? He was telling people about, he said people in his own party were holding these cocaine-fueled sex parties. Play this clip.
Here with
It's
House
about
of
to get
Cards.
serious. Yes, I am.
With Kevin Spacey, and I forget who else was in it. But anyway,
Really well done show.
very
Really
well done
very
show.
well done show.
But it was so dirty, and it was about this congressman who was Kevin Spacey, who was, I think it was minority or majority whip.
Yep.
What was it? Yeah. And so anyway, very, very powerful guy. And it was just kind of like his secret life of all this corruption and power and money and perversion, and it was just dirty. How much, in your opinion, because you've been behind the veil, is this fictitious show, or is this more closer to like a documentary? Is it that bad?
So I heard a former president that we had in the 90s was asked the question about this. And he gave an answer that I thought was so true. And he said, the only thing that's not accurate in that show is that you could never get a piece of legislation about education passed that quickly.
And everything else is good?
Aside from that, I mean, the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, with the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild. And then there's also kind of the whole espionage aspect to what goes on in Washington of, so many people trade in secrets, and there's a currency to secrets. And so it's wild. And then, there's members of the media, the journalists, who kind of will keep nasty stories about you or about other people on a shelf. And then if you're about to kind of speak out against something they don't want you to, they'll come out and say, well, we're about to drop the story of when, 17 years ago you did X, Y, and Z. And you don't want us to drop that story, do you? So we're going to bully you back into this position.
And by the way, this is from April of 2022. This is Democratic Congressmember Ted Lieu who's talking about the behavior of these MAGA Republicans. Here, play this clip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. President Joe Biden has done an awesome job creating jobs. He is a jobs president. Last year, 6.6 million jobs were created. In the last 14 months, we're working with Congressional Democrats, 7.4 million jobs were created, the most in United States history. Democrats are building a better America for the future and for the people. What are Republicans doing? I don't know. But last week, Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn bragged about being invited to cocaine-fueled sex orgies by senior Republicans. Don't believe me? Search for Madison Cawthorn Republican Caucus on the internet. I yield back.
Going back to that guest on CNN, let's play this clip.
Can Trump, what happens if he loses Gaetz? Does it leave a stink?
I don't think so. And I also don't think Gaetz doesn't get it because of a sex scandal. I think Gaetz specifically doesn't get this because he's an asshole to people, and people in the Senate don't like him. And to
Dodd had the same problem.
Wait.
One of the other things that we are learning per ABC, is that from some of these children who Matt Gaetz was flying around, when he flew them to Fox to watch his TV interviews with Fox hosts, he also took them to the play Pretty Woman, about a businessman who falls in love with a prostitute. This reminds me, do you remember when Gaetz was on the Tucker Carlson show, when Tucker was on Fox? Remember when Gaetz said this? Here, play this clip.
Again, I only know what I've read in the New York Times. I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble. And so I do believe that there are people at the Department of Justice who are trying to smear me, providing for flights and hotel rooms for people that you're dating who are of legal age is not a crime. And I'm just troubled that the lack of any sort of legitimate investigation into me would then convert into this extortion attempt.
I don't remember the woman you're speaking of or the context at all, honestly. But
By the way, Anna Navarro puts it all in perspective. Here's what she had to say on CNN. Let's play the clip.
Remember, let me just say this. I remember, you and I are old enough to remember when Bill Clinton had 2 attorney general nominees, Zoe Baird and Kimba Wood, who were eliminated, who had to withdraw because they had employed illegal nannies. Matt Gaetz is accused of sleeping with a girl who's almost young enough to need a nanny. And Republicans are saying there's nothing to see here.
Here's some more of the reporting. This is by Roger Sullenberger. Matt Gaetz allegedly paid for sex through his adopted son Nestor's PayPal account. Gaetz, who sat on the House Judiciary Committee, introduced Nestor to the world on June 18, 2020. And apparently around that time, according to the lawyer for the women and as well as what's likely in this ethics report, using Nestor as a conduit to communicate with underage girls. Going back to Republican Senator Kramer here, here's what he has to say about recess appointments. Let's play this clip.
If this nomination were to go down and he tried to install him via recess appointment, would that be okay with you?
Well, I think it'd be very difficult to, I just think it'd be unwise to do that if he can't get the votes of the majority party, which is his party.
Yep. So Donald Trump's cabinet pick here clearly blowing up in his face, but we knew where this was going. This shouldn't come as a shock. This speaks, though, to Donald Trump's horrific judgment, no judgment at all. Bringing in Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General. What an embarrassment. What a shame. What a stain already. I mean, you have to evaluate Trump's conduct and go, isn't that proof he hates our country? To put Matt Gaetz as the Attorney General tells me Donald Trump hates our country. I don't know how else you could look at it. It's clearly a gesture of someone who hates America to inflict Matt Gaetz upon us with all of this. Embarrassing. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million subscribers.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.